Hey, good morning everybody. Week 2 of online services, and I just wanted to say hello. Glad you could make it. Look forward to worshiping with you. Lord God Almighty, all thy works shall praise your name in earth and sky and sea. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God in 3 persons. knows. Jesus shines brighter. Jesus shines purer than all the angels heaven can know. All fairest beauty, heavenly and earthly, wondrously Jesus is found in me. None can be nearer, fairer or dearer than now my Savior art to me. Beautiful Savior, Lord of all the nations, the Son of God and Son of Man. Glory and honor, praise adoration, now and forevermore be thine. Now and forevermore be thine. Upon life's boundless ocean where mighty billows roll, I fix my hope on Jesus, blessed anchor of my soul. When trials fierce assail me as storms are gathering o'er, I rest upon His mercy and trust Him more. I've anchored in Jesus, the storms of life I brave. I've anchored in Jesus, I fear no wind nor wave. I've anchored in Jesus, for He has power to save. I've anchored in the rock of ages. He keeps my soul from evil and gives me blessed peace. His voice has stilled the waters and bid their tumbled seas. My pilot and deliverer, to Him I all confide. For always when I need Him, He's mine. heavy laden, cumbered with a load of care. Precious Jesus, still our refuge. Take it to the Lord in prayer. And do thy friends despise, forsake thee? Take it to the Lord in prayer. In his arms he'll take and shield thee. Thou wilt find a solace there. About 2,000 years ago, there was a man named Luke, and he wrote a story about the most important person in the whole entire world and all of history and all of the universe. He is the most important person. Everybody ought to pay attention to him, and that was the person of Jesus. And as he wrote his story, he said beforehand, you can read it in his introduction, he went and interviewed eyewitnesses. He went and talked to people who knew Jesus. He went and talked to everybody he could find. He detailed the history accounts, tried to line up timing, wanted to make sure everybody knew when all of this was taking place. And he wanted to be so incredibly accurate. He was trained as a doctor, and so you get the sense that he had a care for details. He paid attention to every last thing, wanted to make sure it all worked together. And he was writing this story about the person of Jesus so that anybody who didn't know Jesus might have a chance to know Jesus upon reading these words. It's a fascinating account. It's the one that we read from every Christmas at Luke chapter 2. He gives us the detailed, sort of glorious or romanticized, not romanticized, but we've kind of romanticized it, the most full account of his birth. And so we read from that, have pictures of a fireside, somebody sitting in a rocking chair reading it. Maybe that's part of your tradition. And so Luke, he's writing the story, and he writes what we have is like the first 9 chapters. We put the chapters in later. He didn't put them in there himself. But he put the first 9 chapters in, and that detailed about birth to about 32 and a half. And then he saved the rest of his book for a particular time in history that we've been talking about over the past few weeks. His road to Jerusalem. You see, Luke in chapter 9, he made a special note that there was a time in Jesus' life that everybody that he talked to, he wasn't one of the 12 disciples, but everybody that he talked to said, there was this moment when Jesus, things shifted for him. Like he realized that a certain season of life was over and he moved on to a new one. And the way they all described it was that he recognized that his time on earth was coming to an end and that his time to return to heaven was coming soon. And so everything after chapter 9 is the last 6 to 9 months of his life. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't say that he just knew it and went on with business as usual. It said he knew that his time was coming to an end, and so he made a transition, he made a pivot, he made a turn in direction, and he turned his face, it says, to Jerusalem, where he knows, not everybody else knows, but where he knows his end will come about in the most cursed way possible. He would be hung on a tree, which was a sign of a curse from God, hung on a cross to die for the sins of the world. So over the last few weeks, it's been my goal just to say, hey, let's look at these passages and find what we can glean about Jesus in these stories. The stories that happen after this change in pace, this change in season, this change in direction, this change in mission. And let's see what Jesus really was all about. Because all of a sudden his teaching became sharper. And there were opportunities for ministry that came up that he declined. He said, nope, that's not part of it. I'm going to Jerusalem. Nope, that's not part of it. I'm going to Jerusalem. Nope, I don't have time for that. I've got to talk about this. And so when Jesus really zeroed in and focused his ministry, we ought to all kind of lean in and pay attention to what's happening. Today we're going to be in Luke chapter 14, verse 25. And it's one of those passages similar, that they're kind of sprinkled throughout after Luke chapter 9, but it's one of those passages that has somewhat of an intro of as Jesus was traveling on, or as he continued on to Jerusalem, or as he left this city, as he was on his way to Jerusalem. There's all these kind of short taglines, short transition statements, and we're going to find one here in Luke chapter 14. But in this one in particular, it says large crowds. This is verse 25. Large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and turning to them, he said, "If anyone comes to me." Now, before we get into this, Jesus had large crowds of people. Any teacher, any rabbi that has as his goal to become somebody famous, this is the perfect opportunity to spark something in the crowd that just everybody endears you, and they hang on all of your words, and they're just, enamored by everything you have to say. Jesus doesn't do what everybody else would do. You find it in Jesus' life that when crowds start to come around, and large crowds in particular, it's not uncommon for Jesus to give his hardest teachings, his most offensive teaching, then. So buckle your seatbelts. Here we go. It says, large crowds were traveling with Jesus to Jerusalem. And turning to them, he said, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple." I mean, I feel like they weren't in a room, but there's that phrase you could hear a pin drop in the room, or you could hear the gasp, just, oh, I can't believe he just said that. Even in our 10 Commandments, he's said he's a Jew. He's always, done these things as a Jew, but now all of a sudden, even in our 10 Commandments, it says, honor your father and mother. Jesus, we've heard you say things like, love your neighbor as yourself, and love, the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And we've heard you say all these things, but now all of a sudden, it just seems like you changed your mind. All of a sudden, it seems like, how do we do this and still follow God? How do I take care of my mom who's a widow? How do I take care of my kids if I hate them? I typically know how to hate people, but I feel like there's some people that I'm not supposed to hate. And Jesus said, no, if you're going to follow me, you got to hate them, or you can't be my disciple. Crazy teaching. It reminds me of, there's been certain gatherings or certain times I'm talking with Abby, and as I'm talking with her, I'll say something, and it's better if I catch it quick. But I'll say something and I'll go, oh, no, that was too strong. I didn't mean it like that, and try to ward off any offense that I may have just sent her way, ward off any sort of, bad reaction that, I really didn't intend to do. There's times when I say things and I think, okay, I got to back off of that. Hold on a second. Sometimes it takes me a day. Sometimes it takes me a couple hours. Like I said, at best, it happens like right as I say it. I go, whoa. Like, I didn't mean that. You kind of expect after Jesus says things like this to either back away and go, I think that may have been a little too strong. And everybody would have wrote it down and said, Jesus changed his mind. Like, this is kind of crazy. That's notable. No, instead, or you would anticipate that he'd go, okay. Now I know I said this and I intended to shock you, but here's what I really meant, right? But he doesn't do that. He just says, if anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their own cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. And then he tells us a couple of stories. He says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. The typical tower that they might have built would be one over their vineyard, just kind of a guard tower, just to make sure that everything was protected, everything was taken care of, no thieves were coming in. It was kind of a defense kind of tower. Suppose you're going to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and you're not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. It was his way of saying, you're driving around, you see a lot that construction started, but it's been like that for months. And finally you're talking to somebody, hey, have you seen that lot over there? Yeah. The one by so-and-so's house. Yeah. What's going up there? And then they share the story. You're not going to believe this. This guy started it, but he didn't even have enough money to finish it. He just laid the foundation and let it sit. Isn't that kind of crazy? Isn't that kind of wasteful? Yeah, that's kind of crazy. They must be some kind of fool. And Jesus says, yeah, just like that. If you don't want to be a fool, if you don't want to waste, make sure you know the cost first. He goes on. He says, or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Won't he first sit down and consider whether he's able with 10,000 men to oppose one coming against him with 20,000? And if he's not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, those who do not give up everything that they have, they can't be my disciples. It's in these teachings, Jesus is giving us some warnings. He said, now listen, being my disciple, it's tough. Being my disciple has a high cost. And if you're not willing to pay the high cost, don't even start the travel. It'll just be a waste. It'll just be something that makes you look foolish. It'll just be something that is just a complete disaster. Don't do it. To which I imagine in this large crowd, there were people who walked away and said, wow, I don't know how I feel about that. Wow, Jesus is pretty much lifting himself up to the place of God at this point. I imagine there were many good Jewish, God-fearing people who walked away and said, wow, that guy, he's just a little too full of himself. That guy's, he's a little too egocentric. I bet he just cares a little too much about himself and wants everybody else to as well. And I imagine there were families there. Husbands and wives and kids. And the wives and the kids, they heard this of the husbands who were mainly the target audience, right, because of their culture. They listened to Jesus that day and they thought, now all of a sudden, my husband, my dad, has this leverage point to live like the Romans do and just treat us like dirt. Now all of a sudden, Jesus, the one that has been so uplifting of women and children, the one who has been so, willing for children to come around and be blessed by Jesus and lay his hands on them. Now all of a sudden, Jesus, the one who associates with women when no other men would, he's giving his stamp of approval to hate. For husbands and fathers to hate instead of love. I imagine this caused a bit of a jarring effect. And I think Jesus, if he were honest, he would say, good. Because following me is no light matter. You see, what happens sometimes is that as we live this life, there are things that begin to tangle us. They begin to kind of tie themselves to our life. Things like family. And in our family, although families can be a great thing, some of you were born into good families, some of you were born into families that you wish you could have been born into other families. And I understand that. Some of you had had the chance to raise your own families, and some of you wished that you could have done a better job. And I understand that. But families have this way, this social network, this interdependency kind of thing, where families can become an anchor for you. And in many ways, anchors are good. They keep life stable. They keep life from just being upended and taken off in a new direction. They keep peace. They keep companionship. And then along the way, there comes ambitions. And your ambitions, the things that just drive in your heart, your passions, your interests, your talents, your skills, your dreams and your goals, and all of these things are good things. They're things that give meaning and purpose to your life. And the longer you live with those, they become an anchor for your life. And in many ways, a good one. They provide stability and direction. They give clarity and focus, and you know how to live. There's also things like finances. And finances are important. And stuff and material goods, it's important. It's a necessary thing. But the more we accumulate and the more we dream about a future of a certain type, a certain standard of living that we'd like to get to, or some certain accomplishments that we'd like to be able to fund, all of a sudden these things become an anchor for us. And in many times, a good way. And last but not least, our reputation, what people think about us, becomes an anchor. And as we live, what Jesus is saying here is, you ought to have no ties. You ought to have no anchors that cause you to hesitate to follow him. You ought to have nothing that causes you to hesitate or to delay or to just abandon following him altogether. You ought to have nothing in your life that would slow you down from following the will of God. In a certain sense, it's by comparison. You ought to love Jesus more. But in a certain sense, it's also, you ought to just live your life unattached to them. You ought to just live your life not living concerned about these things at all. And I know that's scary. That sounds just like, so now you're going to live with no care or concern for your wife and your kids. And like the church board's already beginning to pull out their phone books and call Dave Bartley and say, we need a new pastor, or he needs an intervention, or he needs something, right? I think my pastor just said he doesn't care and he's not concerned about his wife and kids. But I think the other part of Jesus' story is to know this, that in following Jesus, the relationships with the people you have around you, they will be taken care of. You see, there's times when we try to take care of them on our own. There's times when we try to think through the best way to love our spouse or love our kids or love our parents and do all these things. There's times when we think we know what's best, and so out of our knowing and out of our loving and out of our concern, we live our life. And Jesus said, no, because you don't know what's best. No, you don't know how to love them the best. But I do. So follow me. And as you follow me, everything else will be taken care of. Don't hesitate to follow me. Follow me and follow me fast. Don't worry about them. I'll take care of them. Don't worry about them. I'll take care of them. Don't worry about your kids. I'll take care of them. Don't worry about your parents. I'll take care of them. And sometimes I'll use you to take care of them. And sometimes I won't. But you've got to follow me. If anyone comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even their own life, such a person cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not carry their cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. The passage ends this way. I think it's important to read this part. Verse 34. He says, salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is fit neither for the soil nor for the manure pile, and it's thrown out. And he concludes, whoever has ears to hear, let him hear. Salt is good. It's great for seasoning. At times they would use it as a preservative for manure so that they could fertilize in the season that they needed to fertilize in. Salt is good. It has some purposes. It can preserve foods. It can do all sorts of things. But if it stops doing what salt needs to do, I mean, if it loses all of its characteristics and just becomes dust, it's not useful for anything. And here's what I think Jesus was saying. I think Jesus was saying, you know, the key to being salty, the key to being a good seasoning and preservative for our world, the key to being the best way to take care of the world, the key to being the light of the world, as he said in other places, the key to being people who follow him and the people who are different. You know, there's different kind of people that everybody kind of wants to be like, but nobody wants to put the work in to be like them. The key to being that kind of person, Jesus would say, is to not have a care in the world except a care to follow Jesus. To not have a care in the world. To not have all of these obligations you feel like you have to live up to. To be free. Free to follow at a moment's notice. Free to follow and move in a new direction whenever he leads us that way. Key to follow quickly. Free. I don't know about you, this is a bit intimidating because I can get pretty wrapped up in trying to take care of my house or trying to take care of my family or trying to take care of my cars or trying to be a good steward of what I have or trying to keep one eye on ambitions and dreams and goals in life. Even as a pastor, you know, you think, oh, you're a pastor, you're always paying attention to what God wants. But it's easy to get caught up in worldly dreams. It's easy to get caught up in kind of my dream place to do ministry, right? Rather than where God may actually lead me. It's easy to get caught up in the kinds of ministry that I want to do because they're easy for me to do, rather than doing the things that God's leading me into. Or at times God's keeping me at. Or at times God's sending me away. At times God's moving me away from my family when I'd really rather stay. At times he's keeping me close when I'd really rather go. That there is this will inside of me just like there's a will inside of you, and I have to remember that the only way to follow Christ is to say, you know, I know I have a will, but I'm setting it aside. I'm going to pretend like I hate my will because I love Christ. And I owe everything to him. So I don't know what room you're in right now. Obviously you're in a bunch of different rooms. But I want to encourage you to take a moment and kneel or pray, however, whatever posture is
is good for you, but also safe for you. Now I want to take a minute and just provide you with the opportunity to step back and do as Jesus said. Count the cost. Look at what it really takes to be a follower of Jesus. And as you do, take the step. As you see the cost, as you see how big it is, take the step to remove your care and concern from the things of this world. Yeah, even your father and your mother and your wife and your children and your brothers and your sisters and even your own life. Remove your care and concern from those and place it on Christ, because as you do, you will become more caring, you will become more loving. You see, Jesus, when he said hate your father and your mother and the rest of the list, he wasn't saying hate like the rest of the world hates. The rest of the world, when they hate, they don't pay attention to, or they neglect, or they do aggressive things in a mean direction, a mean-spirited direction. They slander people, they do other things. And Jesus is the one who earlier on said, I want you to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And I can tell you that if you're following Jesus and you're loving and praying for those who persecute you, you're loving your enemies and praying for those who persecute you, your family will end up being cared for, and your family's concerns will be taken care of. And in fact, they will see a spirit in you that is so unique, that's so salty. Your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, they'll see something in you and they'll go, wow, there's really something different about that person. What is that? Wow, they really care well. They really give well. They give a lot. They're really generous. They serve a lot. They just show up when they're needed. Those are some really great people. And I think Jesus would say, yep, and the secret to that is to remove your care and concerns from the world, to cut the ties of the things that so easily entangle you and so easily determine your direction for you. And instead, just follow me. Instead of getting wrapped up with the rest of that, just follow me. And then you'll be salty. And then you'll be light for this world. Then you'll be a source of hope. You'll be a vessel through which God can just do whatever he pleases. But not until you forsake the world. Not until you push aside all of your dreams and desires and wants and possessions and relationships. Not until you tell him, okay, God, there is nothing too sacred for you to touch in my life. There's nothing too sacred for you to touch and tell me to get rid of. There's nothing too sacred for me that I won't let you take me wherever you want me to go. I'm yours. In the Church of the Nazarene, we call this entire sanctification. That the moment you come to where you say, Lord, I don't know what you're going to take. I don't know what you're going to ask me. I'm not sure what you're going to demand of me. As best I can see, it's going to cost me everything. But I'm going to tell you yes, no matter what you say. I'm going to let you know my intent is to tell you yes, everything you ask of me. Everything you tell me to do, every place you tell me to go, I'm going to tell you yes right away. I'm not going to hesitate. I'm not going to slow down, because really what I have to give you is so small in comparison to what you've already given me. Lord, I want to be your disciple. And not just I want to be your disciple, but I want to be all in. I want to surrender everything. So as I said a minute ago, I want to give you the chance to pray. You can hit pause on the video. You'll see me kind of closing things up here in just a minute. But I want to take you a moment to pray. And if you've already made this commitment, just to reinstate it. Lord, I'm still yours. I'm still 100% yours. You're more important to me than my family. You're more important to me than all of these things. And so I lay them all at your feet, and I just say, I'm not even going to try to care or be concerned about them anymore unless you tell me to do it. It's all yours. I'm all yours. And maybe there's others of you watching that need to take the step to say, Lord, I've been kind of loosely following you for a while, and it's time for me to take the next step. It's time for me to say, okay, there's been some things I've been holding back. They're yours now. There's been some things I've been unwilling to do. It's yours now. There's been some things that, I've just been waffling back and forth. I'm not sure what to do. Not sure if I want to go that far. I'm not sure if I want to give that much. I'm not sure if I want to serve in that capacity. I'm not sure. And if that's where you are, I would encourage you to say, now listen, Jesus said, count the costs. It's going to cost you everything. So don't waste your time now. Don't waste your effort and your energy now. Take a step and be all in. And be all in. And you'll find that the work that begins to take place in your heart will just be extraordinary. You'll find that the way that you love and care for people, your heart will just grow and grow and grow and grow. You'll find that it costs a lot. But as you give, you find that there's joy inside. You'll be salt. You'll be light for this broken world. Hey, if you prayed a prayer of surrender today, I would just love, love, love for you to reply all to the email with the web link, and reply all or comment in this video on YouTube and just say, hey, I did it, as a way that we can, even in our social distancing, come together and say, look, I made a commitment to Christ and I want everybody else to know about it. I want to know that everybody else knows. I don't want to be one of those closet commitment people. I want to just be up front. And I would just so love for you to do that. If you'd like to take some time and have somebody pray with you, again, you're welcome to reply to the email or comment on the video, and we'll get in touch. And leave your email, leave whatever it is, however you'd like me to contact you. And it would just be great. It would be great to walk this journey together as we try to follow Jesus. And again, just no strings attached. So as we go through our week, I ask that the Lord bless you and keep you safe, that He give you opportunities to follow Him in deeper and deeper and deeper ways and cause great good for the kingdom of heaven. God bless you.